Hi, and welcome back. I'm Sofia. Today's topic lives in a very specific and uncomfortable place. The space between knowing something is wrong and being able to prove it. Between trusting your gut and doubting your own mind. Today, we are talking about the feeling that your partner is hiding something from you. This feeling is not the same as jealousy. It is not insecurity. It is something quieter and more specific. It is the feeling that the person you know better than almost anyone in the world is suddenly showing you a version of themselves that doesn't quite match the one you fell in love with. Something is different. You cannot name it, but you feel it before your mind can catch up, and that feeling deserves to be taken seriously. Today, 5 people wrote to me about exactly that. Let's get into it. Now let's read Sarah's message. Sarah is 32, writing to us from Copenhagen, Denmark. Sofia, lately my boyfriend has been taking his phone to another room to make calls. He never used to do this. When I ask who he was talking to, he gets defensive and says I am being paranoid. But my gut is telling me something is wrong. How do I know if I am right? Sarah, hold on to those words. My gut is telling me something is wrong. Don't let anyone take them from you, not even him. A change in behavior is information. It doesn't prove anything on its own. But a partner who suddenly takes calls in other rooms, gets defensive when asked, and calls you paranoid, that pattern deserves attention. Because here is what defensiveness in this context often signals. Not guilt necessarily, but an awareness that something needs protecting. And that awareness comes from somewhere. A person with nothing to hide typically explains. They reassure. They make you feel seen rather than dismissed. The word paranoid places the problem inside you rather than inside the situation. If that word appears every time you raise a concern, that is worth noticing. Trust your gut, Sarah, not because it is always right, but because it is never entirely wrong. Now let's read Amara's message. Amara is 28, writing to us from Lagos, Nigeria. Sofia, my partner has started placing his phone face down every time I'm in the room. He gets tense whenever a notification comes through and quickly turns the screen away. He says I'm imagining things. Am I? Amara, you are not imagining things. What you are describing is deliberate, repeated, and consistent. And deliberate behaviors have reasons behind them. Not everything hidden is a betrayal. Someone might be hiding a surprise, managing a private struggle, or dealing with something they are not ready to share. These are real possibilities, and they deserve to be held alongside the more painful ones. But here is the question. Has he offered you any explanation at all? A partner hiding something innocent will almost always give you some version of, I am going through something privately. I will explain soon. They acknowledge the change even if they cannot fully explain it. If the only response you get is, you are imagining things, that is not an explanation. That is a deflection. And you deserve more than that. Now let's read Julia's message. Julia is 35, writing to us from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Sofia, my husband travels for work regularly, but recently he calls less, seems distracted when we speak, and his explanations of where he has been don't always add up. I don't want to be the suspicious wife, but something feels off. What do I do? Julia, release yourself from that phrase, the suspicious wife. Suspicion is not a character flaw, it is a response to something. And what you are describing are observations, not paranoia. The only way forward is a direct, honest conversation, not an accusation, not a confrontation, but a calm, open exchange where you share what you have noticed and how it has made you feel. I have noticed you seem more distant when you travel. Some things haven't quite added up for me. I am not accusing you. I just need us to talk honestly. That is not suspicion. That is intimacy. And if he cannot meet that with honesty, you have your answer. Now let's read Yuki's message. Yuki is 30, writing to us from Osaka, Japan. Sofia, a few months ago my partner mentioned a new friend from work. Just casually. Since then, he has never mentioned this person again. The silence around this person feels louder than if he had kept talking about them. Am I reading too much into this, Yuki? You are not reading too much into this. You are reading exactly the right amount. People rarely disappear a secret all at once. More often, they introduce it casually, test the reaction, and quietly remove it from conversation if it feels risky. One mention, then silence. And that silence is often more revealing than the original mention itself. What I would suggest, bring it up naturally. Whatever happened to that friend from work you mentioned, in a genuinely curious tone, not confrontational, just curious. His response, and more importantly, how he responds, will tell you more than any answer he gives. And now let's read our final message. This one is from Petra. Petra is 38, from Prague, Czech Republic. Sofia, my husband and I have been married for 12 years. In the last few months, something has quietly shifted. He's not cruel, not distant exactly, but there is a version of him I no longer have access to. Like a room in the house that is always slightly closed. I cannot point to anything specific, but I feel like I am losing him to something I cannot see. Petra. Of all the messages this week, yours is the one I've thought about the most. What you are describing is the most difficult version of this feeling. Not a specific behavior, not a clear change, just a shift. A door slightly closed that used to be open. 12 years gives you a profound knowledge of another person. When something changes in that familiar landscape, even something you cannot name, you feel it. That is not paranoia. That is intimacy doing its job. Approach this not as a search for something hidden, but as a reconnection. Tell him what you told me, as a vulnerability, not an accusation. I feel like there is a part of you I haven't been able to reach lately. I miss you. Can we talk? That is not suspicious. That is love asking to be let back in. And if he cannot meet you there, the conversation needs to go deeper. After 12 years, you deserve full access to the person you chose. Not a version with a room that is always slightly closed. 5 messages today. 5 people sitting with that specific uncomfortable feeling that something is wrong, but they cannot prove it. Your intuition is not your enemy. It is built from thousands of small observations your conscious mind never registered. When it speaks, even quietly, even without a single piece of concrete evidence, it deserves to be heard. It deserves a seat at the table of your relationship. That does not mean assuming the worst. It means having the conversation. Because if you are wrong, it clears the air. And if you are right, you deserve to know. What topic do you want us to cover next? Drop it in the comments. Your question might just become our next episode. If today meant something to you, please like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Sofia. Take care of your heart.